Hello audience, my name is Dennis Seitzma. It's August 24th, 2024, the same day we had Hurricane Andrew in 1992 in southeast Florida, south of Miami, north of Key Largo. It's 8:28 a.m. on the eastern coast of America, USA. My target audience is Astro van enthusiasts and aficionados, and today we'll talk a little bit about fuse block repairs. The brass pins, or not, whatever they are, the pins fracture sometimes and fail, so that causes problems like a no start situation if the ECM1 fuse fails. And I've ordered a repair kit in the past from Speedway Motors online. Part number 910640, 91064003. And I also ordered, I found I could get the pins from the Dorman 85668, Dorman 85668 fuse block that holds 4, and you can steal the contacts out of there. Now I need to finish. I repaired the contact on my PWR WDO fuse. That when that pin breaks, you lose your electric windows, and you also lose power to the 4L60E transmission, and the transmission goes into limp mode. So, and I can't get to the back of the fuse block, but I understand that there's some kind of metal grid back there. So what I do is I use the pin extractor, which when you order this kit from Speedway Motors, assuming they have it in stock, it comes with that pin removal tool for ATC fuse blocks, ATO, ATC fuse block. Unfortunately, I lost that, so if anybody knows where I can get another one, let me know. But I used a toothpick as a pin extractor, and that released the pin. And if you study the pin, you can see how you can do it with a toothpick. So get the kit and then study the pin and then attempt the repair. But I can't tell you how many posts I've read where van wouldn't start, and tell them check the fuses. Fuses are good. Well, the fuses are good, but you got a broken pin, and I'll show a photograph of mine with a broken pin. But anyway, I got to finish the repair to the ECB1 on my van, and otherwise I can't start it. And let's see, where's the bag full of pins? Alright, so there's all the pins I got to repair mine. Now, besides problems with the fuse block that I got to resolve before I can start the engine, and I can jam a toothpick in there to make it work, but I've already started the repair on the ECB1. So, but if anybody's got a good photograph from a salvage yard or their van, the back of the fuse block, please share it with me or post it online, and I'll save it and add it to my research. But as I've said in past videos, I sometimes like to make a way to give power to the fuel pump prime connector, but it needs to be fused. So I ordered online a bunch of fuse holders that are waterproof, and I'll fabricate my way to connect power and have it fused. And I ordered some of these fuse clips here to hook up to the battery. These are Schumacher and I ordered these online, and got a couple of them. But anyway, weather permitting, I'm going to be installing the oil tube and for the dipstick into the engine block, and then I'll do the I'll do the 3 bolts to connect the 4L60E transmission torque converter to the starter ring, and hopefully after that put some oil in the engine, and then if I can, I will make use of that purple wire I added to the starter solenoid and crank the engine and check the oil pressure using the mechanical gauge. At least that's my plan that's in my head at the moment. Now, I know I talk too much, so I'm trying to move this along as quickly as I can, but still get in my talking points for today's video production, which is a video diary, a documentary. This is not a how-to. I make mistakes. But the other day I needed more lubricant, so I bought this stuff, but not real happy with this stuff. It's probably good stuff, but I ordered online some liquid wrench lubricant, and I know you said WD-40. No, WD-40 is what it, you know, look it up online. WD-40 was designed as a water displacement, WD Formula 40, and it's a metal cleaner, and it was designed for the aerospace company, aerospace industry, I'm told, just like my other favorite go-to. The ACF 50 was done by the Learjet Corporation for aircraft, and this stuff is only pennies more, or $1 more than WD-40, and this is a corrosion preventative. So when you select your stuff to do your work, make sure you buy the product for what you're trying to accomplish. And WD-40 may be a great product for what it's designed for, but there are other products that are better for corrosion preventative or lubrication. So that said, I'm going to get to work on the van, and I'll give you an update. I didn't get too much done yesterday because I had to run errands for essentials and try to do some planning and organizing, because you know, this work area is all I got. It's very crude. You know, I'm lucky I got this, because I wouldn't even have had this, but I saw it on the side of the road one day, and the guy had a construction company and he was going out of business, and he wanted a reasonable price for it, so I bought it on the spot. And I have a friend of mine in construction, and he says he thinks it was a tool shed that was used when they built Turkey Point back in the 70s, nuclear plant in Homestead. He says it looked like a union job, and it's extra strong. But you know, like anything made of wood, I always worry about fire hazards, so I keep extinguishers all over the place just in case. And if it catches fire when I'm not here, then oh well, what am I going to do? But I've got a lot of stuff in here specific to the Astro van. So anyway, people, hope you're enjoying my video documentary. And I make mistakes, and do-it-yourself work can be dangerous, so do it at your own risk or hire a professional. And I make mistakes, so you know, if there's any good information in here, please give me a thumbs up. And thanks for watching. The next thing I want to do is, this is the oil tube here. I want to get that installed, stuck into the engine, and it's way down there is the place it goes. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's down there. There's a hole, and there it is. It's kind of hard to see. I got the transmission pipe to go into the hole on the side of the engine, but it's not fitting properly. I think I'm missing a section of pipe, so I got to search the van here and find it. I'm pretty sure it's in here somewhere. I just got to find it. But as I recall, to fill the dipstick, and I had to fight with it in the past, it didn't want to go. It comes up here to the transmission fill and it bolts on there. So I'm missing something, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles when you do stuff like this, and your short-term memory may not be as good as you want it to be. So I tried to mark everything, and because as soon as I get that oil thing, I can put oil in the engine and then crank it to check the oil pressure using that purple lead I added to the starter. But I should have got the oil stick done before I hung the starter, I guess, because it would have been easier. I had to wiggle it and find it, how to get it in there. So, but anyway, we will carry on, and thanks for watching. Hello audience, it's August 24th. It's 5:45. It's a Saturday, Eastern time. I've made a lot of progress. We had monsoon rains here the last 6 hours, so I couldn't work, but in the last half an hour or so, I found I'd left the upper part. It's two sections for the oil level, and I'd left the upper one attached with the bolt, and so I got the lower one in and got the upper one. I got it ferreted out. So I solved that problem. The other problem was, let's see here, I put oil in it. It's full of motor oil now. Where'd the fill thing go? It fell on the ground. Alright, anyway, I did that. Now it's full of motor oil. I went to test the oil pressure using this gauge. Unfortunately, this kit, which is very nice, except the connector fell apart on me, and it's got 3 ball bearings and a spring, and without all 3 ball bearings you can't fix it. And I have 2 out of 3, I think. I tried to contact the company, and no joy. Apparently this is a house name for Amazon, this SJERYLGULL oil pressure gauge, and my mechanical gauge that I had broke, so I got no way to check the oil pressure, but I did prime it, and we got oil primed and it's coming out. So what I'm going to do is I'll use the oil sender and the actual dash gauge to see what the oil pressure is using the prime tool without running the engine. Now, one of the things you want to know about is, we talked about the ground on the front. You see this ground here on the back of the engine in this wiring harness? This is the one that corrodes up and gives everybody all the trouble, and it's down on the bolt on the transmission, and it's a 9/16 bolt SAE that goes between the transmission and the engine block. So in the future, I'm going to run a cable from this ground point, which is the engine block, to the front of the engine, which is the other ground and bonding point, which is right here. And this one comes loose or what have you, and then this is the cable, the ground cable, the black cable that goes up to the negative side of the battery. Now people never replace these cables, and they never think to replace them, and then they have electrical problems. So I got to get this running, and I'll come back later and I'll improve the electrical system some more by replacing more cables. And I'm running a grounding and bonding cable from here to the back of the engine, then from the back of the engine to the fuel pump grounding point, because all these things corrode or come loose at one time or the other, and then you on a road trip you got a problem. So this is a tip, and give me a thumbs up if you like the tip, please. And so this is how far I am, and the way I'm going to apply power is, like I said, with a fused thing I fabricated today while it was raining, and give it fused power, maybe a 30 amp fuse, so if I have any serious problems it'll pop that fuse. It requires 10 amps for the fuel pump, and I probably can't do what I said until I hook up the fuel lines, because I want fuel going everywhere, and I can do that now. So that'll be the next thing. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm thinking about it. I can't, well, let's see, what can I do? Well, I could unplug the fuel pump at the mid-frame connector. I could do that, but I got to hook up the fuel lines anyway. So anyway, this is progress, step by baby step. And people, thank you for watching. And that mid-frame connector, let me show you where that is. I think I'm going to disconnect that, because I do not want gasoline squirting everywhere on me. You go underneath the driver's, on this 94 Astro van, underneath the driver's seat, and you crawl under the van, and you get the wheels blocked, of course, or on lifts, and you find a mid-frame connector right to the left of that. There's a mid-frame connector. Yeah, and if you got a bad ground here, there's your fuel pump cable, that black cable there, and if that comes loose, you're in trouble. You're gonna have no fuel pressure or low fuel pressure. So you want to make sure, let's see, following this cable. No, that goes to the transmission. Where does it go? We got a cable here that comes from the fuel tank. This one here is a big one, and you follow it on through to the connector. And where is it? Okay, there it is. Okay, there it is. And that's the one you disconnect to kill your fuel pressure, kill your fuel pump. But I need to connect these fuel lines anyway, so I will get, now that I'm underneath here, there they are, I'll get them connected to the manifold. So again, people, this is a chronic problem where people don't realize that they've even got a connection there on that bolt that's missing. I think you can see it. You see that? The bolt I've got removed, it's a 9/16, and it gets, I gotta get this out of here. It goes to this stud here on the intake manifold lines, and I want to replace these flexible lines here that go between the chassis, but I can't find a part number. So if anybody knows a part number for that, please send me a message, and thanks for watching. Okay, audience, as I said, it's like 6:45 now, and I can't use this oil pressure gauge until I can fix the connector that goes onto the end of it. And I got all the parts, but those little tiny ball bearings are boogers to get installed, and I got all 3 of them. By some miracle I found all 3, but I don't know how to put it back together, so I'm going to sideline this for now. I'll fix it later. And yes, I did contact the company and said, hey, this is a lousy design. And they didn't respond yet, and that's been some time ago. Now the other oil pressure gauge I had is reading 0, and I just went outside and cranked up. Well, I'll talk to you about that in a minute, but I got 0 oil pressure, so I'm going to have to, it's pumping oil when I remove it, but I see no pressure, and I primed it real good, and I got plenty of oil, so I'm going to have to go rent one from AutoZone, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, I do not want to crank this engine because I don't have exhaust manifolds on there. I don't have the ignition system set up. I've got all these instrumentation things I need to connect, and the spark plugs and spark plug, you know, I have a lot I need to do, but won't do it today, sadly. It's getting late in the day and sunset's coming, but I got no oil pressure and I don't know why. So what I did to check the oil pressure is I fabricated this, put a 30 amp fuse and connected a jumper between the load side, which is the vehicle, and the battery, because if I had a problem I wanted to pop that fuse right there. And I did plug back in the fuel pump, and so I got a fuel reading now. I'm not going to crank it, but I am going to turn it on so the gauges can read, and it's got a full tank of gas, and the battery voltage is down a little bit, so I need to put the charger on it. But when I do this, I should get oil pressure when I prime it with this, and it won't even start unless I have 4 psi. And the valves need pressure, need oil pressure, or the engine won't even start, because the valves won't work, you know, with the hydraulic lifters. They, you know, and I learned that the hard way years ago. I rebuilt an engine for a guy, and he had a bad oil pump. Now what I have in there is the new oil pump and the new coupler. So, and I am pumping oil when I take out this sensor. Now that's a brand new, that's a very fragile sensor. It's like 30 bucks, and I've broken one already just by bumping it. So you want to make sure that you don't bump it, and I'll take it off and put a brass plug in there until I'm ready to start and run the engine. But that will turn, it's open circuit at less than 4 psi and goes closed circuit when you get to 4 psi. And that is your protection for your fuel engine if your oil pressure gets low. And like I said, I had problems I didn't know I had, like that valve cover, rocker arm cover on the passenger side on the right bank had a hole in the back of it, or it disintegrated. And this tube here, this PVC thing is that goes from here up forward, that's got a hole in it, and I didn't know about that where it rubbed through. And so you find all these things. Now my wiring harness looks pretty ratty, but don't worry about it. I have done continuity tests on everything, even after the fire. And that's the other reason I don't want to crank it. I want to have everything according to Hoyle before I try to start it. Because I found in the past, when I try to do things before it's done, it's a bad thing to do. But anyway, Dan's responding pretty well, as I would expect it to, if I was going to start and run it, except for the oil pressure. And I validated this wiring with resistors at the oil sender to check the oil pressure, and it's basically around 0 ohms is 0 psi, and 50 ohms is like 50 psi, etc., and 25 ohms. But I had installed a new fuel pump and fuel level sender some time ago, and it's full of gas, and but I just can't get any oil pressure. So I'm going to go rent a mechanical one and validate that I actually have a real problem here before I panic. And if I don't have oil pressure, you know, that's a brand new oil pump that's in there from Powertrain Products, and I know I installed it correctly. It's really hard not to install. There's only one bolt, and you torque it up to spec, and then there's a screen pickup tube, and I know I did that right, and there's plenty of oil in it, and there's oil coming out of the hole there. So anyway, I'm not going to panic. Panicking won't do anything for me. So audience, this may be the last segment for today. It's almost 7 o'clock, and I like to wrap up and get dinner before sunset, so I don't have to drive at night. But audience, thank you for watching. Audience, I spoke too soon. I decided I would keep running this primer until I killed my battery and see what happens, because maybe it's just not primed yet. So now it's starting to react, starting to jump a little bit. The oil pressure coming off 0. So maybe it's just not primed yet. It's almost out of the red. Okay, it's coming up. Doesn't give me a lot of confidence, does it? I had somebody teach me this trick years ago. It was an old mechanic, and he cut the head off a screwdriver and put it on a drill motor to check the oil pressure. And the old farmer who paid me a few bucks to rebuild the engine, he accused me of doing something wrong, and I said check it. So his guy went all through it and found that he had refused to replace the oil pump. He says they never fail. So everything fails sooner or later. And that's a new sending unit there, so I have confidence in it. But like I say, they're very fragile, but I'll rent a mechanical gauge, and I'll try to fix my gauge later with those little check balls that fall out. But it's kind of disappointing. But now that I've got this far, I'll carry on tomorrow if it's not raining, and try to do more. But gives me some confidence here that, you know, turning the thing on and off, everything's responding. Probably got some tubings here if I hit the radio right. Here it is, bass, engine off. These modern radios, I wish they had better displays, because I never know what the hell's going on with it. Alright, well, whatever. Okay, I'm beginning to think it's a problem with the engagement between the distributor and the prime tool. I got no ignition right now, and I don't know about fuel. Computer is gonna fire that. So let me go unplug the fuel pump underneath the van, and I'll have to risk it. I got a fire bottle here handy, and see if I can get any oil pressure. Alright, I hope this thing doesn't blow up or catch fire, but I've unplugged the fuel pump, which means the fuel level is gonna peg. It just did. But I put in the distributor and see if we get any oil pressure this way. Yep, don't have enough battery. Either that or it popped the fuse. Oh, dummy me. It would pop the fuse. I only got 30 amp in there. Alright, gonna have to go full tilt. Let me pause the camera for a minute here. Okay, I use this little tool, 5/16 GM battery wrench, Pittsburgh Tools, 5/16. There it is, 5/16, to attach the battery, and we'll see what happens now. Hopefully no explosions or fire. And we got oil pressure. Got at least 35. Went to 0 again. Okay. Wonder why it went to 0. The distributor's turning. It ain't real happy because it's not bolted down. But I saw 35. Alright, that's enough experiments for now. I don't want to, I'm ahead of the game, so I'm going to quit for the day. And I think it'll be fine once I get it running. But have a lot of work to do here before I'm ready to get it running. Put it on the exhaust manifold, connect the headers, catalytic converter, all the engine sensors, wiring, and then we'll see what happens after that. And this is a documentary, not a how-to. This is a video diary, so I make mistakes, I show my mistakes, and this is my target audience is Astro van enthusiasts. If you do it yourself work, it's at your own risk. Death or injury can result. You can get burned, blowed up, and all kinds of stuff can happen when you do it yourself work. So you do it at your own risk. Dennis John Sietsma Productions, Homestead, Florida, USA. Thank you for watching.